and welcome to another episode of Badger Nerdworks Presents We Watched a Movie. I'm Brandon.
I'm Matt.
And today we watched Black Panther, the new Marvel movie. Matt, your thoughts?
Oh God, I love this movie. I really did. It was an incredible movie. It pulled from the comics very well. It told the story that it wanted to, and it told it beautifully, very compactly. If I'm honest, a little too compactly, but every movie has its flaws, and sometimes you just you compact things down a little bit too much. I think could have breathed a little bit more, but overall, loved it. Amazing.
I agree. This movie was very tight. I think I wouldn't use compact, I'd use tight. It had a ton of story to tell, and it did it in a very quick fashion, and it took you to, I think its scope was very massive. So it had to take you to a new place and introduce it, not just in terms of, its geological location, but its customs, its traditions, its people. It had so much to tell you, and it had to do it fast enough that you got to the story and didn't lose what was actually happening. It would have been easy to get lost in Wakanda, and the amazing country of Wakanda they create. It's just gorgeous, and it's very rich and full, and it feels very fleshed out.
Agreed. I think it was definitely one of the strongest points of the movie. Wakanda just felt like such a real and vibrant place. You see all these different aspects to it, the technological marvel that it is, and you still see the tribal parts of it, the parts of it that have been kept over from these long established traditions. And it was so just vibrant and enriched that I wanted to see practically a whole nother movie just about Wakanda's history. It was amazing. It felt so real.
No, you could have watched anyone just existing in Wakanda and felt like the guy who raises rhinos in Wakanda. I'd love to see the movie about him.
He's just sitting on a stool, training them. Go, run in a straight line, guys.
But inside of it, it had a fully functioning system of conflicts and hierarchy and tradition, where it felt natural. Not everything worked perfectly. It had the right amount of dysfunction inside of itself that it felt like a real nation. And I thought that was really cool. I was expecting him to just be it works! Wakanda, it's so amazing! Black Panther kicking butt. But they didn't do that. They were Wakanda's a real place. Ruling it is a complicated thing.
Yeah, absolutely. There was such an easy trap to fall into there of just Wakanda's this perfect, amazing place that, works on every level, technologically, and culturally, everything. But no, it felt like there were warring factions, there were places you could go with it, places that were less welcoming, places that were more welcoming, it felt like I could be traveling through it and experience 10 million different things in the same way that you experience in any country. And, it mastered that feeling.
And it depends on whose perspective you come from. Even inside of it, inside of our, it's a little over 2 hours, you go from, some allies who you feel really good about at the beginning of the movie to being, enemies by the end. And, there's, this very real conflict inside of it. And, it's created by actions. And this was a very action driven, and I don't mean things blowing up action. I mean people's decisions coming to bear in a real way, and especially in the ruling class.
Yeah, tensions building from everywhere. You have 5 different tribes that are coming and ruling from different parts of the country, and each of them have their own unique perspective that they bring to bear for the movie. The Panther tribe obviously ruling has this great influence of we are the dominant clan, we are the people that you all follow. But every other tribe has its moment in the sun as well, where you get the gorilla tribe from the mountains, and they come in with their own unique system of governance and their own unique approaches to the way that they see the world. And it's beautiful to just see that kind of variance in not only the politics but the culture too, because the different places that you visit within the movie all feel like they have their own unique approach to life. The gorilla city feels nothing like the technological marvel that is this cradle of the civilization, the center city. And that in and of itself still feels different from their more like rural agrarian parts of their country, where like you have this real simple, real straightforward way of life that's just aided on the surface by technology of incredible caliber.
I love the guerrilla clan in this story because they kind of set it out that there's like 5 tribes that started Wakanda, and one of them goes out on the mountain, so you're immediately like, oh, that's the evil tribe that's going to cause problems for everyone else who got civilized. But it turns out they're really cool.
Yeah,
and like all the scenes with them are really awesome. I love that they came up and they're the only ones to challenge him, the Black Panther, when he goes to become king. They have like a ceremony where everyone gets a chance to like challenge the present Black Panther, like for the ruling of Wakanda, and they take away his power, so it's like a fair fight. And it's an amazing fight between the king of the Guerrilla Clan and T'Challa. Like it's just amazing. And like I thought it was cool that the gorilla fought different than him. Like it's these big crushing blows. Whereas the Black Panther is like all these little sharp movements and like really nimble. Like, and he winds up winning. The Guerrilla Clan doesn't just take over in the first 20 minutes of the movie. But it's a great fight sequence, and it shows like culturally how they're different inside of the same country.
Absolutely, and I love how they play around with the perception of them being different, making them worse, because like there's a point in the movie where they have a guest in the center stronghold of the Guerrilla Clan, and the leader of the clan makes this joke. He's like, oh, if you don't shut up, I'm going to feed you to my children. And it's just this great moment of like, oh my god, they're savages, they're evil. And then he turns around and he's like, nah, guys, we're vegetarians. We're not going to feed you to my kids.
It turns out they're like totally vegetarians. It's hilarious. It really is funny.
Great. And it's such a great like commentary on the way that you come into these other societies and you expect there to be this big evil, and you expect the people who are different from the main culture to be like the bad guys. And then they're not. They're just plainly, obviously one of the better tribes in the movie. Like they come to the aid of Wakanda when they need it. And they're there in just this
kind of butt-kicking hippies.
Exactly.
Like, it seems like they were less on board with, like, manipulating their natural resources to get technology. And they're like, no, we should stay, like, connected to the earth and our older traditions. And, like, it's not evil, and it's not, like, dark, but, like, it's just paying homage. And, like, they do a good job of that. Like, this whole movie, like, being like, we're paying homage.
Yeah.
Like, we're going to, like, treat things with respect.
And they feel like such a central part of the narrative, too, because a lot of the subtext of this movie is learning to branch out from the traditional paths of the way that you've always been. And they do such a great job of showing you, well, like the traditional ways aren't wrong. They're not even bad. They're just something that also has to adapt when you move into this greater society. And it does such a good job of that, especially in the closing of the movie, where, like they step away from tradition, sure, but that tradition is still a huge, important part of everything that they do in Wakanda. And it's such a good payoff to the messages that the film is trying to give you the whole way through. It's quite frankly amazing. Like, they're definitely one of my favorite parts of the movie.
Well, and I think it does a great job of showing how, like, it's easy as I think one of the things that underlie in this movie is how a superpower, it's easy to want to separate yourself from the troubles of the world and put up barriers, but that only inevitably creates enemies outside your borders that one day will come in. And I think that's, like, really central to the story. And it's kind of like the Killmonger origin story, which I thought was one of the more compelling parts of this movie. Killmonger, the bad guy, I almost don't want to call him that because he's such a complex character, and he's not necessarily evil for the sake of evil, much like Spider-Man Homecoming. It's not evil for the sake of evil. It's someone trying to achieve something.
It's evil for the sake of necessity. Like for the sake of necessity and where you perceive things to go. The bad guy, the villain, Killmonger, is not the bad guy because he's, like evil because he just wants to be evil. No, he's evil because he ran into these decisions and simply took the wrong path. He changed the way that you're supposed to things, and he took it in a very bad way. He took it to extremes that it should never have gone to.
I even think it's evil. He's his nephew, and like he came out of the same Panther warrior culture, and he just did what the warriors of his culture, the American culture, do. And we learn from our enemies, and we take their strengths, and we use it against them.
Yeah.
Right? So he looked at like colonialism and was like, hey, the way you do this is you get better weapons, you usurp the governments, and then you take over. So it wasn't even evil. He's just following the path he was given. And like, I think it's really cool how this movie kind of mirrors Ragnarok in that they're both stories about kings who made bad decisions with family and how those come to rot. Because like you find out very early on in this movie, like the opening sequence, that Black Panther's father, the previous king of Wakanda, T'Chaka, had killed his brother because his brother betrayed them. Right? So, like, he wound up killing him. But then he had a son, and they just left him in the States. So he just wound up, like, a poor kid in the projects. But he knew Wakanda existed.
Yeah.
And, like, became Killmonger. And, like, was like, I'm going to take back that throne.
And it's such a beautifully realized character, because he goes from this, like, sad kid in the opening of the movie to the point where he's just misguided. He's lost his way. He's lost that intervening idea of, well, here's the line that we can't cross. Here's the line where a warrior has to stop. He's lost that.
I don't think he lost it. I don't think he ever had it. I think his father was sent out as a spy, and he was created from a spy, and he had this warrior culture, and he was like, this is the way of doing things. And they killed my dad and ran. You kill and run. You do this kind of like gross combat that doesn't have honor to it. And he engaged in that. He's like U.S. Special Forces, so like we trained him. We taught him how to do all these things. Yeah. So, like, that's even kind of like an underlying thing is, like, he knows how the world functions in the modern world, and he's able to use that against the Wakandans.
Yeah. I think it's definitely, like a case of pulling that from his environment. Because his environment being a poor kid in the projects, it's not the safest. And he even says at a certain point in the film, people die. That's just the way things are around here. If
he had been brought up in Wakanda, it's possible his story would be entirely different. But it's because he was abandoned. It's the decision made by the king at that time to just leave him that comes to bear. It's not that kid's fault. He's a product of circumstance, and his circumstances could have been different if a ruler had made a harder decision. I think that's one of the cool things is like leadership is like a series of hard decisions.
Which I would argue makes him a great counterpoint, not to T'Challa, yes, but also to Shuri, because you see another kid in that same situation where she's lost her father now, and she's keeping with the things that she learned, from the culture that she's born into. Shuri being T'Challa's younger sister. Right. But, you see...
Plays a huge role. Totally awesome.
Amazing. My second favorite character in this film. But, you see her grow up in that... You see how she's grown up in that culture, and how in the same way that that Killmonger has decided he wants to, learn and adapt, Shuri has also decided she wants to learn and adapt, and that includes, becoming more technologically advanced. But she does that in this culture where she's taught, well, you don't, here's the line, you don't cross it, and you have to be cognizant of that at all times, even in the devices that you create, because none of the devices that she creates are inherently even geared towards damaging other people for the most part.
Well, outside of, weapons. A little. I'm sorry. It's one of those things. I think that, yes, she's a little less violent, but, I think we'll kind of always embrace technology. I don't know how long they've had that holographic, covering. Yeah. They're way beyond anything we have. They've been doing that for a long time. Completely. So I think they embrace that. I think she embraces the new culture of the world. I think that's the bigger issue there than technology. She embraces that, the world is inherently changing. And Wakanda kind of wants to stay the same. It has a bunch of older leadership. Their leadership is older, and it does kind of want to stay the same. It's concerned with its own self-preservation. And I think that's even one of the things this movie is pointing to, is that that distinction between the modern humanist that sees us as a combined global unit, and that's largely that's largely brought on by Black Panther's female influences, which are numerous and amazing. And then like the older ones that are like, hey, we really got to kind of isolate. And like I think that's more the dichotomy that they're like dealing with in their country is old versus new, expansionist and become part of the whole, as opposed to isolationist, protect what we got.
Yeah, agreed. Because you even see that in the main conflict of the film, like the way that it's set up. It's not like people being bad. It's not people making hard decisions that screw over other people. It's the mistakes of the past coming back to fight this idea of remaining in the past. Like Killmonger is very much a Wakandan of like this future where he wants to see everybody succeed and like grow more successful and not be treated in these awful ways outside of places like Wakanda where it's peaceful. And the only thing is he takes it to a level that's just not right.
He sees the violent resolution to that, like you overdo that by violence, right? Whereas like his sister is like, no, we do that by sharing.
Yeah.
So it's like, do you want to be conquered or the conqueror versus like, can we not all become one and the same? Like if we share, then we're not so different. And like, I think that's really cool.
Yeah, I do think that was beautiful because it comes through in like literally every way, because you see Shuri's technology, especially in the final battle where they have two different Panther suits, both developed by Shuri. You see her technology being used to champion T'Challa, who's like this advocate of a peaceful future, of like becoming that one unit. And you also see Killmonger taking that technology and using it for the violent purposes that it could be, and you see her greatly enhancing both of that abilities and that technology being used in both ways to the ends of the movie.
I think, oh man, yeah. And that end fight sequence is amazing, but like you can't mention without pointing out how important women are to this movie, because like for every one strong male character we get in this movie, we get 4 strong female characters.
Yeah, and they're easily also well developed in their own ways that it's just like, every character is so strong in a different way. Black Panther's mother, for instance, T'Challa's mother is just this beautiful, strong, former monarch that's grown to help T'Challa learn and move on with these things. So it's great. It's great. It's definitely one of the best parts.
And I think like it's cool because they don't come from a single mindset too. You have like real distinct differences. The Black Panther's ex-girlfriend and his general, when his country gets taken over, they disagree completely philosophically. And like it's so rare to see like 2 women have a philosophical like argument and disagree like strongly to the point of like willing to break a country, and it has nothing to do with a boy. It has nothing. It's just ideologies and 2 strong women who believe 2 things strongly, separating and being like, no, I got to go this path. I have to be. I like when the general says that thing about like, I'm loyal to that throne. What are you loyal to? And she's like, damn, you cut me to the core. Like that was some great interactions. Like I mean, they're beautiful performances, and like they're the same 2 that are in the casino fight sequence,
yes,
which is amazing. And they have fantastic battle scenes, and at no point do any of those female characters seem secondary. If anything at all, the Black Panther couldn't be the Black Panther without them providing the intel, the backup, the support, logistics. They are the brains and the brawn behind like that throne, and I love the representation of that. Like it wasn't like half-assed or part way. They were like, these are bad people. These are, and I don't mean like evil. I mean like, you don't want to mess with them. You do not want to cross these people, and you feel it in everything about them. They're not silly. They're not like passaways. Like, oh, there you go. There's one. They're like, no, this is a real character. They feel things. They have depth. I thought that was probably my favorite part of this movie was like his like kind of circle of about like 5 women that surround him, and like
just like great strong characters that are beautifully just pulled out throughout the whole movie.
Yeah, his girlfriend, his sister, the general, his mother, the council women who like challenge him. Fantastic. Thanks for watching another episode of Badger Nerdworks Presents. We watched a movie. I'm Brandon.
I'm Matt.
Be sure you like, subscribe, and comment down below. Hit the button for the bell if you want updates as to when videos come out. Thanks for coming. I look forward to seeing you next time. No share. I not share.
You said our videos were coming out. Right. I was.